Pretty crazy to find out 2 years after the 2020 election, we are still under investigation in Congress. In today's video, we'll learn how the chain of custody was broken during the 2020 election, how 40 ballot boxes were mislabeled along with the chain of custody broken, and we're going to learn about how they lied to us when they told us that if they didn't certify the election, they were going to be put in jail. Surprise, surprise.
But I wanted to I had to point out something about Vice Chair Gates' testimony that I thought was interesting, because you mentioned in your written testimony, I read that, and you stated it because you kind of read that today, that the Senate was trying to put you in jail. That isn't really the full context. The full context was this, that the Senate in December, after their hearing, issued subpoenas. You guys were negotiating, trying to figure out how to respond to those subpoenas. Didn't happen. In January and February, there was an attempt to issue second subpoenas. Those subpoenas were responded to. Court hearing was held. Tim Thomason said the subpoenas issued by the Arizona Senate were valid. You didn't go to court to say, hey, we want to participate. We just want to know what we can and can't get. You went to quash the subpoenas. That's a huge difference. And to be held in contempt, it takes a majority. They didn't get their majority because the Senate's very evenly split. That's something quite different than saying, yeah, they were trying to put us in jail. They were trying to cite you for contempt of something that constitutionally and statutorily the legislature was allowed to do. I just needed to make sure that was clear as we go. And now I'm going to turn to
May I respond to that?
No, you can't. It's my time. I'm going to turn to Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bennett, I want to ask you a question with regard to this notion of, he was critical of the chain of custody. Can you talk to us about the ballot chain of custody? And I don't mean to be rude, Mr. Gates.
Yes, I think Mr. Becker's testimony was that the ninjas seized the ballots and machines. Nothing could be further from the truth. I personally, along with the co-election director of Maricopa County, Mr. Scott Jarrett, supervised the transition of the ballots and the machines from the county to the audit over a period of 2 days. We processed 46 pallets, 1,691 boxes. Now, a box contains about 1,200 to 1,300 ballots. That process went very smoothly. I've been very complimentary, both privately and publicly, of Mr. Jarrett and the county's transition of the ballots. But we did find, for example, 26 mismarked boxes. We found 8 boxes that were not listed on the manifest, the chain of custody documents that Maricopa County was supposed to have since the election until they turned them over to us on April 22nd of 2021. We found 2 boxes that were on the manifest but not present on the ballots, and then we found 3 boxes that were on different ballots and they were listed. So the point is that out of 1,691 boxes, there were 40-some boxes of errors, but the transition was not one of the auditors seizing the ballots and the machines. We had a very smooth transition. And once they were in our custody for the audit, we never had a break or lack of chain of custody until we returned them to the county.
And why is the chain of custody so important here, where the folks that didn't want to see an audit take place were claiming there was a chain of custody problem, but the actual chain of custody problem was in transferring from the county to y'all? Why is it important to have good chain of custody?
Well, the chain of custody that has never been provided is the chain of custody that is required by state law, that should be created when the ballots are delivered to the county by their vendors and then are processed in the election through the election. That chain of custody should have started then, and that chain of custody should have been part of the documentation that was delivered to us when the ballots and the machines were given to us in April. We've never received that chain of custody, but we do have a full chain of custody, and the reason the importance of chain of custody during the audit is the same as during an election. To be able to account to the people of your county and your state that you have accounted for all of the ballots, and the ones that you used, the ones that you didn't use, the ones that were spoiled, the ones that were duplicated, and all of that chain of custody is important in the election as it is in the audit, which is why we maintain full chain of custody during the audit.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll yield back to you.